The news is live on Joy 99.7 FM in Accra and Love 99.5 FM in Kumasi and over 30 affiliates across Ghana's 16 regions, including Dreams FM and A1 Radio in Bogatanga. We're also live on Facebook and myjoyonline.com. Coming up.
You are pushing down people. That's the man standing. You are pushing down the people.
Management of the Tamale Teaching Hospital vows to punish staff who will be found guilty in an alleged physical abuse of 3 persons, including a freshly delivered mother at the Tamale Teaching Hospital.
If it comes out that the security did something wrong, definitely every punishment legally will be given to the person.
We'll be taking you live to Tamale plus the latest on how that meeting concluded. Stay off pension funds or incur the wrath of workers. That's the warning from Clocksack to government.
Clocksack is sending a warning signal to all forces, both visible and invisible, to steer clear of current pension arrangements as enshrined in the National Pension Act 2008 at 766.
But President Akufo-Addo has a response to workers.
We will not act in any way to shortchange workers in protecting their pensions.
Details from the Labor Day celebrations in Bogatanga. Also tonight, convert the National Cathedral into a national hospital. TUC tells government insisting the project is not a priority and should be discontinued.
The president has always said he wants to create another Notre Dame in Ghana so he can attract a lot of visitors. But we disagree. In fact, it will be better to convert the project into a national hospital.
The Congress is also serving notice it will not accept any increase in salary and emolument of Article 71 office holders.
To serve notice that if inflation remains high, organized labor will continue to demand wage increases that reflect inflation and the high cost of living.
And in business, President Akufo-Addo justifies domestic debt exchange program, insisting it was needed to deal with the current crisis facing the economy as government promises to protect pension funds.
And later, as we celebrate Workers' Day, we take you to the mortuary and tell you some of the challenges faced by morticians.
He's a chief. He died and he was brought to the mortuary. The fridges went off. But there were lights around, so they removed him. Then the lights came on. Put him back. It went off. They did that about 5 times.
But how was his experience during his first day at work?
Do you know what baffles me? I don't know how come light off. I don't know what happened, but light off and then. It will go. Sometimes you'll be walking and you see a flash as if it's a human being coming, but it's just a body that has been, embalmed and laid.
My name is Ayisha Ibrahim. Let's settle for the details.
You are pushing down people. That's the man standing. You are pushing down the people. You are pushing down people.
Sounds from the Tamale Teaching Hospital of victims and eyewitnesses following an alleged assault on some patients who visited the hospital. The latest we're picking up is that management of the Tamale Teaching Hospital is locked up in a meeting to find perpetrators of an alleged physical abuse of 3 persons, including a freshly delivered mother. We'll hear from the PRO of the hospital shortly. First, let's get some details from our regional correspondent, Martina Bugri, who has been following the story for us. Martina, give us a blow-by-blow account of what really happened.
Now, what we are told is that this morning, a patient who was on admission was discharged, and her name was given as Salamatu Ali. She had just given birth a week ago through surgery, and then she was discharged. So she had gone out to pay her bill and then to return. But when she was coming back, the security said she will not be able to enter. And so the woman said her baby was still at the ward there. And so she cannot leave the baby while she's outside. But according to the woman, that the security threw her out of the place. And because she had just been operated upon, she fell. And that she was feeling pain and weak. She couldn't get up. So people have to help her get up. Now, her sister who was helping her at the hospital was not happy with the development and confronted the security man. and she was also beaten. A third person who was videoing the whole process was also beaten up, I'm told. We are told that his phone was confiscated, and then people mobbed up and they helped him to get back his phone. And so this is what people who witnessed the incident and the victim have been telling me.
Have you heard from the victims themselves or their family?
Yes, I spoke to Salamatu and she said that because she was still weak, she wasn't feeling too well. I mean, she's still recovering, and so it's actually affected her. But she's just saying that, well, it's happened, so they are discharged. She's happy she's home, and that's what she's been telling me.
So we know exactly where the victims are now, especially the freshly delivered mother?
Yes, please. We are told that she's been discharged. She's home now.
Right, Martina Bugri with that from the Tamale Teaching Hospital. We can now hear from the Public Relations Officer of the Tamale Teaching Hospital, Aliyu Zubairu, who says management is conducting more investigations into the matter.
Yes, we've just been informed that there was an disagreement that ensued between our security and that of a patient relative. It has to do with the security insistence for the relative not to enter, if you like, the facility through where he was. And so that has come to our notice. So be it as it is, management has swiftly moved in. We are in a meeting at the moment, and we're looking at what really transpired, and then beyond that, we definitely will want to have an investigative report, and if it comes out that the security did something wrong, definitely every punishment legally will be given to the person. So that is what we are doing at the moment.
Well, we are hearing that the hospital is setting up a committee to investigate this matter. We'll definitely bring you the outcome in our subsequent bulletins. Now, the Trade Union Congress has called on government to convert the National Cathedral into a national hospital, insisting the project cannot pass for a priority and should be discontinued. The cathedral, a pet project of President Akufo-Addo, has been embroiled in controversy over cost and relevance, addressing workers to mark the May Day celebration in the Upper East Regional Capital. Secretary General of the TUC, Yao Ban, said the current economic circumstances of the country does not support the construction of such an edifice.
We believe that government can lead us out of this crisis by cutting all non-essential expenditures, including the need to stop spending our hard-earned revenue on the National Cathedral. The president has always said he wants to create another Notre Dame in Ghana so he can attract a lot of visitors. But we disagree. In fact, comrades, it will be better to convert the project into a national hospital. Mr. President, you can also reduce the size of your government. Ghana has too many ministers and deputy ministers. Revenue mobilization. We acknowledge the efforts government is making, but those efforts must be intensified to mobilize more revenue. But we want to caution government against the excessive use of regressive taxes, which impose a disproportionate burden on local businesses and on poor people in society.
TUC is also warning workers may be forced to demand salary increments if inflation is not tamed. Secretary General Yao Ban is also warning they will not accept any increase in salary and emoluments of members of Article 71 office holders.
To serve notice that if inflation remains high, organized labor will continue to demand wage increases that reflect inflation and the high cost of living. Because that is the only way we can guarantee a living wage and a decent life for the working people of Ghana. Workers on the single spine salary structure are receiving the lowest salaries in the public sector, even though they are providing all the essential services to the people of Ghana. The salaries that are being paid to single spine salary workers has to change. We urge government to complete the review of the single spine pay policy before the next round of negotiations. And Mr. President, we will no longer accept a situation where Article 71 office holders are awarded huge pay increases with fat allowances, while some workers on the single spine continue to receive less than 600 Ghana cedis per month, which is less than the international poverty line of $2 a day. Chaway.
He also appealed to government to complete the Saglemi housing project.
Please do what you can to make the Saglemi housing project useful for Ghanaian workers. We should not and we cannot allow that project to go waste when many workers who are contributing so much to Ghana's development cannot have places to lay their heads. Mr. President, the second request is about Tema Oil Refinery. We believe that government has the capacity to revamp Tema Oil Refinery. We are appealing to you to use your good offices to change the fortunes of Tema Oil Refinery. That will be another great legacy indeed. We would like to appeal to you to convene a national dialogue on the economy so that all the stakeholders can meet and build a consensus on the way out of this economic crisis.
Members of the Civil and Local Government Staff Association, on the other hand, are warning government to stay clear of pension funds or incur the wrath of workers. The finance minister last month hinted at attempts to include some pension funds in the domestic debt exchange program, but addressing members of CLOCSAC to mark the May Day celebration here in Accra, Deputy Executive Secretary Kojo Kakeni says workers will never allow their pension to be included in the debt exchange program.
CLOCSAC is sending a warning signal to all forces, both visible and invisible, to steer clear of current pension arrangements as enshrined in the National Pension Act 2008 at 766. He who has ears, let him hear this message. The outcry of public sector workers, especially teachers and civil servants, during the beginning of the 21st century, to be reverted onto government pension under either Cap 30, that is 1951, or the Teachers' Pension Fund 1952, led to the setting up of the Presidential Commission on Pensions in 2004, chaired by Dr. T.A. Bediako of blessed memory. On this day, let us be energized to continue the struggle for better conditions of service and to join hands with other unions to protect pension funds and schemes, safeguarding pension incomes now to avoid old age crisis. Posterity will not forgive us if we do not succeed in this endeavor. Forward ever, forward ever. At this point in time, where the country has been thrown into a crisis to the extent that pension arrangements are being threatened, even though the contributory three-tier pension scheme has begun to yield positive results, it is very relevant and significant to maintain the existing pension structure.
Mr. Kakeni also warning the association will continue to use legitimate means to fend off government attempt to force workers to subscribe to a private pension scheme.
As workers, we called for a better pension scheme that will yield reasonable gratuities or lump sums, and we had the Act 766. Therefore, we are enjoined to to hold steadfastly, passionately, and jealously guard and protect our 766, which is yielding positive results, so that nobody takes it away from you. In spite of all these obvious benefits at 766, closer together with other members of Forum have had to surmount several obstacles in its implementations. We are all aware. The public sector schemes of fending off government attempts to impose its own private pension scheme on public sector employees ended up in court, where the government was seeking to justify its action and to restrain public sector workers from any industrial action relating to Tier 2 pension and management. We all are witnesses to that sad situation.
But President Akufo-Addo says his government will not act in any way to shortchange workers and protecting their pensions. He was responding to organized labor following various agitations on that front. General concerns were raised about the effect the domestic debt exchange will have on pension funds. But speaking at this year's May Day celebration in the Upper East Regional Capital, Bolgatanga, President Akufo-Addo said his government will not do anything to jeopardize the future of workers' pensions funds.
Taking the domestic debt exchange program, we have been very mindful of its potential impact on the pension funds of workers. We will not act in any way to shortchange workers in protecting their pensions. It is for this reason that government, through an MOU signed with organized labor on 22nd December 2022, decided to grant exemption to all pension funds in the domestic debt exchange program. At the same time, in the MOU, both government and organized labor agreed to work together, quote, to explore mutually beneficial options within debt sustainability limits and to also promote macroeconomic stability and economic recovery in the spirit of social partnership, unquote. In this regard, within global risk management practice, the options should include diversifying the portfolio of pension funds from the current 70% in government paper to real sector investments, including rail, housing, urban transportation, motorways, and airports, as is done by other pension funds.
You heard there President Akufo-Addo. The Medical Association says until government improves the conditions of service of health professionals, they will not be able to stop them from leaving the country. Dr. Fred Adomako-Boateng is a member and also the Bono is director of the Ghana Health Service.
These are determined by market forces. Ability to pay will determine where people would like to go. Obviously, do I want more salary or more money? Of course, yes. So I had the opportunity to do a presentation for GMA, Ghana Medical Association at Bolga. And I really did a calculation for what a doctor is earning here as compared to our mates in the States. And I told them I didn't want to cause depression.
South Dai MP Roxanne Nelson Dafiamakwa has dragged two members of the Electoral Commission to the Supreme Court. He wants the Apex Court to annul the appointment of Dr. Peter Piahene and Salima Ahmed Tijani, alleging they are known sympathizers of the governing NPP and hence not qualified for the role. Some civil society organizations have made similar allegations and urged the two to resign, but they remain at post. Legal Affairs correspondent Joseph Akable has more.
The first is asking the Supreme Court to grant an injunction that will restrain the two members of the Electoral Commission from holding themselves out as members. The second request they are making is that the court should restrain them from acting as members of the Electoral Commission. So in terms of attending meetings and performing those functions that their positions come with, they want that to be granted even before the court determines the substantive case that has been filed against them.
And it appears that's not all he's asking for. There's more.
A number of declarations, but a substantive declaration they are asking for is to the effect that by virtue of these individuals, which he believes are affiliates or have the interest of the NPP as heart, they should not be allowed to remain members of the Electoral Commission. So they're asking the Supreme Court to revoke their appointment. They're also asking for a declaration that their appointment is contrary to law and therefore void and of no effect. And so this has been found. It goes through the normal process of having a number of days, about 14 of them, then the responses come in before the hearing itself will take place.
The National Commission on Civic Education is calling for increased support for vulnerable groups such as women and people living with disabilities following the release of its latest baseline report. The report highlights a concerning trend of families encouraging their close relations to join extremist groups, with women playing a significant role in supporting and even sponsoring such efforts. Dr. Henrietta Santesapon, Director of Research, Gender and Equality at NCCE, has urged for urgent action to address this issue and protect vulnerable individuals from being drawn into the dangerous ideologies.
Out of the 1,351 individuals I talked about, we had 11 of them actually, comprising 0.8%, indicating that they were going to encourage a family member or a friend to join an extremist group. And the number one reason was economic. So they are ready, even though they themselves are not ready to go into it, they don't mind encouraging somebody who wants to go. There were 6 males and then 5 females. It was interesting to note that women are really involved in this whole act. Women were actively involved in areas such as serving as points of supply of weapons for these extremists. And some of our respondents indicated that they are aware that women are unsuspecting. So yes, they can be perpetrators. And in that sense, it means that the women can support extremist activities as their male counterparts. Persons with disability and their exposure, they were not seen to be people who stand the highest risk to be radicalized. But there was that concern that these groups are discriminated against when it comes to, having access to basic services.
Meanwhile, security analysts are calling for a re-evaluation of existing security measures. Head of Research and Capacity Building at West Africa Network for Peace Building, WANEP, Dr. Festus Obing, emphasized the need to strengthen preventive measures aimed at containing violent extremism.
To have people in Ghana who are willing to encourage their family members or relatives to join extremist groups, I think is the problem that we need to critically, because in fighting this threat, we need the support of citizens. We need the support of community. Therefore, if you have a section of the population who are willing to provide the support for these groups, even in terms of providing building, that is a problem that look at, because it doesn't augur well for the whole of community approach that we Ghana policy on countering and to achieve. And so for me, that was one major finding. I think we need to pay much attention.
That's live on Newsnight on Joy 99.7 FM. Time now for business. George Riafi has the latest. What's in business?
Well, we still have issues about the Labor Day or the May Day celebrations heavy in business, because President Akufo-Addo has justified the domestic debt exchange program, insisting it was needed to deal with the current crisis facing the economy. Its government promises to protect pension funds. We're bringing you the response of organized labor, and also what does the employers make of these suggestions. Let's now settle for the details. On the business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Let's now settle for the details. Now, President Akufo-Addo has justified the domestic debt exchange program, insisting it was needed to deal with the current economic crisis facing the country. The president said this in a speech to mark the Labor Day at Bologatanga in the Upper East region. He, however, maintained that everything will be done to protect pension funds as efforts aimed at restructuring the country's debt stock.
In undertaking the domestic debt exchange program, we have been very mindful of its potential impact on the pension funds of workers. We will not act in any way shortchange workers in protecting their pension. It is for this reason the government, through an MOU signed with organized labor on 22nd December 2022, decided to grant exemption to all pension funds in the domestic debt exchange program. At the same time, in the MOU, both government and organized labor agreed to work together, quote, to explore mutually beneficial options within debt sustainability limits and to also promote macroeconomic stability and economic recovery in the spirit.
President Akufo-Addo. Meanwhile, workers are raising serious concerns over victimization at the workplace and moves by some employers to halt unionization of the various companies in the country. Dr. Yao is Secretary General of the Trade Union Congress.
Managers in these companies are deliberately frustrating the efforts of Ghanaian workers to exercise their constitutional right to join a union or to form a union of their choice. And Mr. President, currently, we are dealing with a situation, and it is a very strange one. And that situation is at Sunon Asogli Power Ghana Limited. Mr. President, we do not think that our government should allow such a thing to happen in our country at this day and age. We expect government to do something about this urgently. If government doesn't do anything about it, we will do something about it.
Dr. Yao is Secretary General of the Trade Union Congress. Still on labor-related issues, the Ghana Employers Association said they welcome moves to review the labor law. Alex Frimpong is Chief Executive of the Ghana Employers Association.
We are aware of this plan, and in fact, labor and the employers, we have submitted proposals, and it's being coordinated by the Employment Ministry. So once we gather together as partners, we should be in the position to assign reasons for why we think these changes are necessary, especially taking into account the social, political, and economic changes that are taking place in Ghana and also in many parts of the world, regarding especially the future of work. So is it an issue of flexibility of employment or rigidity in the labor market? These are all key issues that we need to really engage our partners in.
Alex Frimpong is the Chief Executive for the Ghana Employers Association. And finally, now some players in the real estate sector have raised concerns about the high interest rates that are charged by banks in the country. According to the president of Casa Bazaar building and construction firm John William Adele, these local banks or these banks should be helped to cushioned by government to support the sector. Speaking to Joy Business on the launch of the company in Accra, he called for the enforcement of existing laws within the sector to attract more investors.
The government is helping. They are working behind the scene, but we are hoping that the banking system, which can push the real estate companies to do more affordable houses too, is not. I know we know that they are helping, but they still have to do more.
John William Adele is president of Casa Bazaar building and construction firm. And that's all for the May Day edition of the Joy Business Report on Newsnight.
Thank you so much, George Riafe, with the latest from the world of business. And as we celebrate May Day, a whole lot has been said about the dead and the activities inside the morgue, some of which we find amusing, amazing, and others way too frightening. But is there any truth in what many of us have come to believe to be true? As the world celebrates Workers' Day today, General Secretary of the Mortuary Workers Association of Ghana, Richard Kofi Jordan, tells some of the morgue stories. He spoke on Joy Prime.
Let me pick one from the north, but I will not mention the facility.
It's fine.
He's a chief. He died, and it's like he was brought to the mortuary. They brought him to the mortuary, and the fridges went off.
All the fridges
went off. The light went off.
They had put him already, or they had
They
just
brought
about
him,
to.
laid him down, put him into the fridge. Psh, the whole place off, but there were lights around.
It was just there.
Just there. So they removed him. Then the light came on. They put him back. It went off. They did that about 5 times. So one of them who came, the daughter also said, my father said he didn't want to be in the he shouldn't be sent to the mortuary at all. So they had to take the body back. That is one. One, I'll tell you, Accra here. I will also mention Accra here. The body changed.
Changed how?
The body was brought to the mortuary. The day they were about to pick the body, changed to a different human being. I've said it all.
But people, when they...
And the family could not bury.
No,
because the fact is
Jonathan,
not... Yes,
before you continue, people, when people die and they put them in the mortuary for a period of time, there's a bit of change, right?
It's not that type of change.
Okay.
We know the type of... You see, where you don't have teeth, or let's say you have teeth, then all of a sudden, you don't have anything.
Okay.
And away from the mortician is becoming hotter on Joy Prime's music reality show, Cues and Lyrics, as 12 contestants displayed dexterity on a night of freestyle showdown.
My own, the time I...
Nice.
Thank you.
And it's going to work if you work hard at it.
So won't you have to sing this song's of freedom?
You did very well, but I think you can do better.
We got one life. We living, careful how you leading.
I like.
Try to wash away all the tears from my eye.
You use the stage well. Corona cold.
Rappers no more. I like your voice.
Remember to catch the repeat of the show on Joy Prime. It's Cues and Lyrics. That's how we wrap up News Night this evening. My name is Ayisha Ibrahim. Have a good evening.